Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it's Wednesday, and you know what that means. It's time for the Wrestling Inc. AEW Dynamite After Show. And have we got a show for you? We've got a new number one contender. We've got Christian sliding into people's DMs, and we've got Orange Cassidy lecturing Hook. But before we get into all of that, let me introduce the crew. I'm Jack Farmer, being joined by the Spar with LaBar champ Justin LaBar and NYC Demon Diva Issa. Issa, how you doing today?
I am doing well, Jack. How are you? I thought about you during the show today. There was a couple of segments where I saw a little bit of friendship spark, and I was like, man, Jack's gonna be so happy tonight.
You know, all I was missing was Akira Tozawa hugging everybody, and it would have been the perfect show. But Justin, good to see you on a Wednesday. How have you been since Monday?
I'm good. I'm great. Better than Monday. It's Wednesday. That means we're closer to the weekend.
Yes, just a little bit closer. Well, we got a lot to talk about, a lot of interesting news. But before we get into it all, make sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, and Dylan Matthews, the GIF King, making my job easy with a super chat, says, nice to see 81,035 people here in the chat tonight. Of course, Dylan is alluding to local government reports of the attendance record of AEW All In, and they were a little bit less than what AEW said. Now, Justin, to pull back the curtain, we were kind of looking at all this right before we went on the air, so I know we don't have the exact specifics up, but what do these conflicting numbers mean? Is this something that means AEW is a bunch of liars, or is this like just a difference of opinion? Like, what's going on here?
It means in this context, AEW is no different than WWE. It's pro wrestling. You always enhance. If a guy's 6'2", you say they're 6'5". If the guy is somewhere from the islands, you say he's Samoan. You just fudge it for the benefit. The local government apparently gave a report that the number of people that went through the turnstiles, so paying with the ticket through the turnstiles, 72,265. Still a great number. 72,000 still a great number, but the conversation that is all abuzz on Twitter or on X tonight is that is, not the 80-something or the 90-something that AEW is touted and thrown around. That's when you start getting into the things, and Issa, I was thinking WWE enhances the numbers. That's when you start getting into things of how many additional people were there that got brought in the back door, that were sponsors, that were friends, that were, so it's still a great number, but it just shows you AEW is capable of doing the same, enhancing that WWE is going to do in those press releases.
Yeah. Go ahead, Issa.
No, I was just going to say, right. And you also have to remember, AEW really made it a point to mention sold tickets. A lot of times these big events they get announced, and ticket scalpers, other third-party companies coming and buy a bunch of tickets and not necessarily resell them. That doesn't mean those tickets didn't sell, and that doesn't mean the company doesn't make the money. And a lot of times people do sit with these unsold tickets in their pocket. That's just how it goes. I don't think that this 72,000 number is a negative. I remember when AEW even announced Wembley, and people thought even if they do 40,000 was going to be a home run for them. So even bringing that, I hate that we're seeing this number as a negative now because of everything that happened. In my opinion, it's a great number. I don't think it makes them liars. Like, we've been dealing with WWE doing this forever. Like 32, what did they say we had there? 101,000 people, and it ended up being 80-something thousand. Like, this is what they do, and it's part of the wrestling business.
I agree completely. It is kind of a shame that we're looking down on that number as if it's a bad number when you, as you said, people are saying they're not going to sell 20,000 or 30,000, but there's been a lot of talk about attendance records over the past few months, and I guess there's been a lot of talk in general, and I think we need to have an agreement on what number we're using. Like, we talk about ratings, and everyone says, well, ratings are kind of an old metric that don't really work anymore, but we all agree that's what we're using. We need that with attendance records. Are we doing turnstiles? Are we doing tickets sold? Are we doing every single person, worker, employee, person that just pops their head in and pops their head out? Are we counting everybody? I think we just need to figure out what is the actual metric we're going to use so that we can at least compare apples to
Well,
apples.
it just depends. It depends on what you're seeking, right? You know, if you're seeking how many actual bodies, you know, enjoyed the product in that building, you know, then you're going turnstiles. But if you're going from a business standpoint, how much money did they make from tickets? Because like Issa said, you could have tickets that people don't show up. But it's just like in sports. You might not see every seat filled, but if they say, oh, it was a sellout, it's because they're counting the season ticket holders who have already paid the franchise for said ticket. They're not there, so they're not a body there cheering on and enjoying the experience. But to the bottom line, to the profit, that still counts.
Those
it all depends
tickets
on what.
are paid for way before the season starts. And
Yeah.
I sat on a lot of games. I was a season ticket holder for the Yankees. I didn't go to a lot of games. I would try to resell the games that I didn't go to. They didn't always sell, and it didn't matter to them. My ticket was paid for.
I do want to say, Dylan, I got to call you out in the chat here saying, imagine if WWE
They do it every year.
They do it all the time. They do it regularly. So, yeah, it's pretty typical in pro wrestling that this happens. I don't know if it happens
I do
other
think
places,
that
but
people just need to pay attention to the words that were used, because I think the wrestlers in their promos were the ones that are saying the biggest wrestling show, the biggest attended wrestling show. But Tony Khan, during the press conference and when they announced the attendance, they made it a point to say tickets sold. And because I thought the Wembley visual was beautiful, but you could see red seats empty here and there, right? So I was like, and I noticed that they made a point to not say sold out. They kept saying tickets sold or biggest show ever. You know what I mean? I do think they were very careful with the verbiage that they were using.
Which that's kind of baffling to me. Going back to the whole having a ticket purchased but then not using it and not showing up, and like it's one thing when you have a season tickets to, like you mentioned, like to the Yankees, to baseball, when there's 81 home games. Okay, like that's a lot of home games. So I can certainly see that you're paying to have the season tickets, but I can understand not making it all 81 or having them be able to resell all of them. But like we're talking about like a major pro wrestling event. It's just the one event, and so if you go through all the trouble to pay, like how do you not have somebody there in your seat?
Ticket bots. Justin, I think that's a ticket bots, because you do get a lot of companies like a StubHub, like a SeatGeek that gets in there. This is why Ticketmaster is such a scam. Like, and don't get me started on that. But like, you get these companies that have these bots that get in there and buy thousands of tickets at a time, and all of us in the waiting list end up getting screwed, having to buy premium pricing for these tickets. So I think it's the bots. I don't think it's necessarily a specific person buying the ticket to attend. I think this is a big company trying to buy them to resell them.
That's probably the biggest issue. But there are also, to that point, there's also companies that give away tickets and people don't really care and they don't want them and things of that nature as well. So it's a pretty big number. I mean, I don't know how all the differences happen. I am wondering though, when I went to Double or Nothing, now that I went in as press, I don't know if I walked through a turnstile. Maybe I did. I can't remember. I wasn't thinking about it.
Probably did. You walk through a different entrance, but there's still like an account for you. There's still like a scanning, or if they're checking you in with a computer, their checking goes into their system to let them know that this is how many people are in the press box or whatever they sat you at.
But Issa, I'm one of those super cool guys that hops the turnstile. Every time I go, through, I put my hand on it and I
just like the gangs that you were in when you were young. I heard you talk about the gangs.
Yeah, there.
I laughed too. I was like, somebody has to call him out on this. And LaBar, thank you for that.
Oh, it was low hanging fruit.
Yeah, you had to. I was like in the chat. I was like, somebody gonna ask Jack about his experience with gangs allegedly.
Listen, I was pretty popular with the gangs. Everyone wanted old Tacoma Jack Farmer over here, the street king of Tacoma.
When I moved to New York City, I remember when my friends decided to finally give me the honorary New Yorker badge. The graduation thing was like jumping the turnstile for the subway and not paying the fare, because you get arrested for that and it ends up being a mess if you get caught. I did it in high heels. Thank you very much.
Ooh. So did I. We got. I guess last thing on it, though, I do think it's what's great about this big number is I think, real or not, it's sort of reinvigorated a lot of companies to try, or both the big ones, I guess, to try to get that number. I think that's always a good thing. And I think even WWE feels it a little bit because Xavier Woods was making comments about it on Raw. So I do think that it's in a good way going to get people a little bit more competitive, and that's a good thing for everybody involved. Something that might help ratings for AEW, not ratings, but ticket sales, is if they signed a WWE Hall of Famer named Edge. Apparently, Edge was removed from internal the internal roster. It's been updated. Now he's put in the miscellaneous roster, which is where they put people like The Undertaker and Titus O'Neil, who are on the roster but not actually wrestling regularly. Justin, this obviously has everyone wondering, is Edge going to make his way to AEW? My question to you, do you think that that's what this means, or is this just internal paperwork that doesn't really mean anything?
I don't think the two necessarily connected. Like, I don't think he got moved because they just got, word on the street that he's showing up at Arthur Ashe next week. But I do think that, gun to my head, I think it's inevitable that Edge would show up at AEW. I think that given the fact that he probably physically feels that he could still go a little bit more, and judging by what we saw of him in WWE, we'd have no reason to doubt that. Based upon that he still has that connection with the fans, he's still one of the loudest pops when he comes out. Based on the fact that his childhood friend from elementary school is over in AEW, so he'd be able to go over and do some stuff with him, meaning Christian Cage, and the fact that Tony Khan has a big checkbook, and that there would be a case to be made that here's Edge, here's a Hall of Famer, here's somebody that would move a little needle for for an event, for a match, whatever, for Tony Khan AEW. I think Tony Khan would absolutely write him a check for X amount of matches. I thought prior to them happening, I thought Mark Henry was a WWE lifer. I mean, he had signed with them since '96, since he was, still, basically a kid, going through the Olympics and stuck in, obviously had periods of time where he wasn't on TV for months or years, and they stayed associated with the company. I thought Big Show, ever since Big Show came over in '99 from WCW, I thought he was a WWE lifer, and it turns out they weren't. And then those two guys have far less in the ring to offer, and Tony Khan values that in the ring work rate. They have far less of that type to offer, and so they don't do that in AEW. They are an assist backstage. So I absolutely think that if they can come over and be backstage and commentary contributors, absolutely Edge could come over and do a handful of matches for Tony Khan to put on the marquee.
Issa, if you're Edge and you're seeing what Christian's able to do right now, how big of a bargaining chip is it for AEW to offer Edge the ability to slide into mom's DMs?
Edge is a single parent raised kid, so I will be very careful if I was him to go over there right now.
So
I fear for everybody. For everybody with the way Christian is acting.
Issa, what are your thoughts on Edge? Do you think, is there a chance he heads over to AEW? I feel like the fun answer is yes, but the realistic answer is no.
Why is that the fun answer?
Because
maybe to you, I think it depends on how you see Edge. I don't know. I mean, I think a lot of people that I was so excited to see, and they didn't end up living up to the expectation that I thought they would. So it's weird for me to think of somebody debuting in AEW and the excitement when we see them, and then when they go from there, like, it freaks me out a little bit. So I like him where he's at.
For me, it's intriguing. What's intriguing is, like, he'd be able to get the same pop and using the same music, presumably, because Tony Khan could pay Alter Bridge for the music. But then it's like he can't be called Edge. So it's like he's so synonymous with that name. Christian, you just added Cage, and he was referred to as Christian Cage at a point in his career in TNA. Mark Henry, that's his legal name. Big Show, Paul White. Hell, he was even called Paul White when he started in WWE. I mean, so, like, I really don't know, does it have the same effect that we introduce Adam Copeland to the ring?
To your point, Justin, my initial gut for like half a second reaction after you said he can't use the name Edge was, why can't he use the name Edge? And I was like, oh, duh, it's not his. He doesn't own the rights to it, because it's so synonymous with him. It feels like that's his real name. So
that would be the drawback, though. As we're talking out loud, that would be the drawback, though. Is if you are trying to, and again, I guess Tony Khan just doesn't book. He books to the loyal fans, so I guess it's not a big deal to him. But it's like, you can't put Edge on the marquee and then get a brand new set of eyes to come to AEW and go, oh, Edge is wrestling over here now. You'd have to put Adam Copeland, and how many casuals are going to know what Edge's real name is. So that is one thing, I guess, that I just thinking out loud here. But
yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Like I said, I don't know if it's realistic. I think it's fun that it's always fun when someone jumps ships to another company. So it's interesting to see how it goes is all.
Edge.
The Edge. Is that a big, I'm sure there's a lawyer that's looking into it.
Oh, that's the guy in U2, right? He's the
Oh,
Edge.
yeah. What if he goes by the other Edge? I don't know. I'm not a marketing genius. But what I am good at is asking everyone to like, comment, share, and subscribe. If you're watching now, go ahead and copy the link and throw it into social media so we get everybody coming on over here and joining the chat. And speaking of the chat, we got a bunch of great folks in here. We got Beer, as well as DJ Dark. We got Jack Taylor, Permanent Press, Dylan Matthews, Jack Taylor, Dark Money Zone, Jay Willie. Lots of folks in here. This is great. Christopher Stikelether, and everyone else. Fernando, appreciate you guys. And also shout out to all the lurkers just hanging out and watching and listening. That's what lurkers do. They watch and listen. That's why you get the name lurker. But pop in and just say I'm a lurker and say hello. Let's get started with this. Thank you to everyone for responding with the money as necessary. We start the show with the international title as usual. Jon Moxley facing Big Bill, who walks out to Ricky Starks' music. It's a slugfest, and eventually Ricky Starks gets involved. That brings Bryan Danielson out. Mox eventually taps out Big Bill, but Big Bill and Ricky Starks beat up Mox and Danielson afterwards. That leads to Claudio coming out to make the save. Issa, this is a normal thing now, international championship, opening the show, but somehow it feels different with Mox being the guy as opposed to Orange Cassidy.
It does. It does feel different. I thought this was a fun match. For those who need the Mox by the numbers, it took 4 minutes and 43 seconds before the bleeding started. I did time it. Thank you very much. It does. Moxley elevates the title. Whether I know some people don't want to admit it, but I do think it feels different. It feels refreshing. I think Orange Cassidy was a good champ. Don't get me wrong, but there's just something about Moxley, and he's put this company on his back for so long. Still haven't taken that freaking vacation, man. So shout out to him. This match ended up being a lot better than what I anticipated. Like when I heard it on paper, I was like, oh, okay. But they went at it. I love the addition of the Ricky Starks and Daniel Bryanson on the outside. I thought that was great. Overall, I enjoyed this. I thought it was a banger of an opener. Yeah. I hate the name Big Bill. It's just not hitting.
Yeah. Big Bill is a terrible name, but Justin, I feel like they've got money in Big Bill as one of a predominant big man in AEW.
Well, they do, but you have to understand all the rules were followed here in the opening bout. The international title kicked off the show. Jon Moxley bled, and if you're over 6'5", you have to lose. So that's just how the rules are in AEW. And unfortunately for Big Bill, all 7 feet of him, I know.
But barely made it. Moxley barely made the cut then, because Moxley's a tall guy.
He slouches, though. That's the thing. He slouches. That's how he gets over. Everyone else stands up straight when they try to get.
Well, he keeps losing so much blood, so he's losing stature as the weeks go on. Big Bill is great. I don't know. Yeah, the name. Obviously, Bill is his real name. I don't know if we're doing the big just to kind of draw off the big cast or what it is, but yeah, Big Bill. It sounds like a. Here comes Big Bill. It just sounds really like frumpy dumpy, but he himself is a talent. He has gotten himself in phenomenal shape. He's still very athletic. He's still relatively young by all accounts, but he's had a lot of experience. He's been a lot of places. He's one of several, especially on the big side of things on the roster. He's one of several who it's like, man, if you took some time with this guy, you could have something. And I don't know why, but this is how he's being used. But it was a good match. It was a very good match, and I can't argue that Moxley has put AEW on his shoulders. And again, he's there, Cincinnati hometown guy. So this hit on all the right buttons and all the things.
Justin, do you like the pairing of Big Bill and Ricky Starks?
I like that better than what I've seen Bill out there with previous other people in the different factions that they've, there is a certain, I know this gets thrown around a lot, but I mean, there is a certain Shawn Diesel feel to that of Ricky Starks is so charismatic and, so full of it and everything. So having Bill towering, behind him, holding an arm up, and that can work. I mean, that's essentially what Wardlow MJF was for so long that worked.
Christian Cage and Luchasaurus are doing too.
Yeah. So, I mean, it works. But I like it, but at some point, I don't think I'd like to see Big Bill just kind of push more as the forefront singles guy. I know everybody kind of is involved in the stable and has some ally, but I'd like to see Bill, stand out more on his own.
Yeah, I like that you said the Shawn Michaels Diesel thing. That's honestly what I was thinking when I saw them as well. I think a lot of people do, but in my opinion, hey, it works. So it worked. So why not give it a go? But this was a weird ending, Issa, because you had Claudio come out and save the team from Big Bill. And what is I know there's gray areas in pro wrestling, but are the Blackpool Combat Club, are we supposed to cheer them or boo them? What are we doing with these guys?
I don't know. I wondered the same thing. I'm like, I'm not sure. If they're baby faces, heels, tweeters, like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do here, but I feel like they're coming off as babyface team right now. I think. I'm not sure. I don't know, but it's questionable, and I think that's been an issue with AEW for a while now, where you don't know who you're. There's a lot of feuds that I can go back and think I don't know who I'm supposed to cheer and boo here, and that can confuse the audience. Also, I just wanted to mention, I don't know if the integration of the Collision stories into Dynamite is being told well enough, right? Because it took me a second, as somebody that doesn't watch Collision, to put together that Ricky Starr and Big Bill are a thing now. And if you see it, the way that they just presented it, you're like, wait, what? Like, when did this happen? I don't know. There should be something, like bringing out Bryan Danielson. If you watch All Out, then it makes sense. But it felt very random if you're not keeping up with the other shows. And they should be aware that the same audience that watches on Wednesdays not watching on Saturdays and Fridays. So they should do a better job at telling you that story.
This is nothing new with AEW. I mean, it was even worse when it would be, at least it would be
the YouTube shows. Remember
the YouTube show,
shows?
and they would just assume that everybody knew who this person was or why this person didn't like that person. I agree. I know it's difference in presentation, and that WWE takes it to the extreme of they'll show you the same thing 3 or 4 times that happened in hour 1. While it is annoying to all of us who are watching all 3 hours, it's like we know, but it is helpful to people that come in and come out, and I think if AEW could find a happy medium, that would help them, because they have they have over 150 people on the roster. I mean, so when you have that many people, and then you have these shows on Friday and Saturday that, especially Saturday, it's still new. You have to take 30 seconds to show people a video clip of what happened, or and they do it sometimes, but I agree with you, not enough. And the Big Bill Ricky Starks thing, I read about Collision. I did not watch it myself as well, so I read about it, so I knew just enough from reading. I'm going, that's right. But I completely agree. It's confusing.
I will say, as someone who's maybe sounding like I'm just trying to defend AEW here, but they are doing a better job at it. I think that they could get a little bit better at it, but I do feel like it feels like since All Out, All In, I don't know what's happened, but it does feel like things are starting to smooth out a lot as far as presentation goes. It feels like we're not getting quite as much potatoes, as the old saying goes here on Wrestling Inc. And it feels like there's a reason for things happening where it wasn't like that all before. So I agree with you guys, but I do feel like I want to give the flowers in the sense that it does feel like they're starting to kind of streamline some of that stuff. Now, it was always terrible with the YouTube shows. That was no defense for that.
I do agree. It does feel like there's a little bit more substance in some stories, and they are letting things breathe more compared to what they did. I mean, just look at when we get to the main event. I mean, the match ended and there was still like 6.5 minutes left of TV time, and like that's not normally how things go with AEW's ending. So I do agree that I feel like they have decided that they've been pacing things better, timing things out better. Maybe, you'd love to have this extra segment, extra match, and maybe pull it back because that's just going to end up cramming things. So I do agree with that. Since All In and All Out, it does feel like they've taken some good positive steps toward that.
We got to get on with the show, obviously, but Justin, but just real quick on that, do you have any thoughts on why that could be? I mean, the easy answer is CM Punk's gone, everything's different, but the changes that are happening are things that could have happened while CM Punk, I can't imagine one person was stopping them from telling certain stories. Do you think something's changed backstage, or is it just?
Yeah, I think it has nothing to do with Punk. It has to do with, he could have done this all along, but Tony Khan has hired more people there internally whose job is to help with the storytelling, with the booking, essentially, with the scripts. And so I think that and of course that could only work if he decides to listen to them and take that input and what have you. But I think he's doing so. I think he's finally got a little bit more of a team to an extent. There's still things that he's doing that we might critique as a booker, and that he's still much more of a matchmaker than a really good storyteller. But I think they're making steps because he has got people in positions backstage now, and that's their job. And again, he's taking them up on what they're bringing in.
Yeah, and there definitely are some things that can be improved. I see in the chat people mentioning Ring of Honor overlap, and that's one that I also think that probably could use some help. But Issa, before we move on to this whole thing, after the commercial break, Blackpool Combat Club, they're doing a promo. They're kind of running through everything that they've got going on. And eventually Phoenix just dives in and gets taken out by security before Eddie Kingston stares down Claudio and says one more week. I know our super friend of the show, Majestic Marie, was excited to see Eddie, not excited to see Claudio. But any thoughts on this interview segment?
I thought it was hilarious. Like the timing of it, and Moxley's still back there, like bleeding while they're trying to cut these serious promos. Moxley's in the back, bleeding, trying to get out of his hoodie. I don't know. There's just something about the way that Moxley acts and the way that Eddie acts that I just appreciate. They're just real. They're just being themselves, and I just love that about them. My favorite thing, and I don't know if you caught it, is that Phoenix just comes in so aggressively. Oh, I'm going to beat you next week. Security's holding him back. Moxley's laughing the whole time, just laughing at him. And I pop for that. And I can't wait for Claudio and Eddie, and I hope they give it some kind of stipulation next week. I think the backstory and the hatred is there for it to maybe be a street fight, or somebody in the chat mentioned it, be a New York street fight, or I don't know, no DQ something. But that's gonna involve a lot of people. Obviously, if we do a no DQ, everybody's gonna come out. But I'm excited for their match. Shout out to Majestic Marie. We love her.
We got a couple of super chats, and both of you, I apologize. I didn't get to these when I should have. I moved on before I got to them. But first, Paul saying,
Jack. Shame
"Go
on you.
Issa, doing that in heels is impressive as impressive as you are. Of course, jumping the turnstile in heels. So thank you for that, Paul." And then Tornado Anthony Y saying, "The rated elite superstar."
Hey, I like that. Actually, fine. That's a good one.
Here's the question: does Edge own the rights to that song he comes out to, though? Because if he doesn't come out to "On This Day," I don't want
he doesn't have to own that. That's one that Tony Khan could just buy.
Right.
Oh my!
Because it's not a WWE produced song. The only thing that WWE did for the production is added the "You Think You Know Me" to it. But in terms of the actual song, that's an Alter Bridge song, so it's no different than him buying the music for, Orange Cassidy, for Moxley, for anybody else.
I feel like, remember when Lacey Evans used to just walk down to the ring and then turn around and head back to the back? I'd be okay if they hired Edge just to like come out to "On This Day," and he comes out, we all sing, and then he just goes, "Okay, bye," and leaves, and just does that once a week so I can sing along to his song. Speaking of entrance themes that are fun to sing along to, Don Callis comes out and he says that Takeshita is better than every other wrestler from Japan because he beat Kenny Omega twice in 7 days. And now Takeshita will be referred to as the Alpha. And the next thing he's going to do is break Kenny Omega's heart by destroying Kota Ibushi. Justin, what I like about this is that this feels very reverse what managers did in the old days, where in the old days, you had the face that would run through all the people that the bad guy heel knew, where now it's the bad guy heel running through all the friends of the face.
Yeah, no, that's a good call. It is a different way to go about things. I think Don Callis is money every time he's out there. Everything from that little bit of music they choose to use for him to the what his graphics are on the entranceway and his promos and everything. I mean, and I even like the way that he announces and unveils the new nickname for Takeshita. The problem that I have is I just don't really buy Takeshita as this heel. I know I've seen the actions. I get it. I know he's Don's mercenary. I know he's beat Kenny Omega, so he's got credibility twice. So he's got credibility. I get all that, but I think I would have rather. I saw babyface Takeshita, and while I wasn't his number one fan, it at least felt more natural. This feels like we're trying to force it. And again, Don Callis is a tremendous heel manager, so everything coming out of his mouth makes that part work. But then when it goes to Takeshita, I'm like, just let the guy be the babyface that he was. Why him? Why have him as a heel? So that I'm still trying to get used to that.
Yeah, I got to agree with you there. I like Takeshita, and I think he even could be that guy eventually, Issa, but I've really only seen him a few times being dominant and beating people and looking unstoppable. Like, I'd like to see him get some big wins and be presented as unstoppable before he gets this, if that makes sense.
He beat Kenny Omega. What other kind of big win does he need to prove? Like, I don't know, maybe it's the heel thing, that's not working here, but you have him with a great manager, you have him with a great voice, you gave him 2 humongous victory. If we're still not seeing it, then it's time to change directions, in my opinion, because there is no bigger win than Kenny Omega. I know that MJF is the champion, but in my opinion, Kenny Omega is the guy. If you beat him, that should establish you. And for them, I think it's cool that they're going after Ibushi. And Samoa Joe did that later on, where we're seeing these people really want to take everything from their opponents, like, because it makes the grudge feel more real. But at the same time, again, if you beat Omega and we still don't see it and it's still not there, you got to change directions.
That's a great call.
The art was a masterpiece. Beautiful painting.
The painting is awesome. The presentation is awesome. Everything about Don Callis feels like the devil is pulling strings. I will say about the Kenny Omega thing, though, I think of it kind of like Action Andretti beat Chris Jericho, but I didn't think, Action Andretti is the most dangerous man in AEW now. And that's kind of where I feel like I can see it getting there, but Brock Lesnar had to beat a whole bunch of people before he was Brock Lesnar.
But if you think about it, we saw Ospreay, and you don't see Ospreay all the time. Some people are not familiar with him. Ospreay came in, beats Omega, Forbidden Door, and to me, boom, he's made. When he came out to call out Jericho.
Beat Kenny Omega? I mean, come on.
I'm sorry. Yeah, but no. But you know what I mean. Like, that victory over the guy made him. Like, Ospreay is a established talent to the point that at this you have to give him a legend, because that's all that is left for him to do. It's just a comparison. His victory on a singles match over Kenny Omega didn't feel that big.
Yeah, the match is great, but yeah, I get what you're saying. So I don't know. We'll have to see what happens with there, but I'm a huge Don Callis fan. We got a super chat from Chad W. Says, "What is up, guys? Love your shows, but I usually let Joel and Stacy Yednock do the talking when I visit them in West Virginia. Was in Hershey for SmackDown, and Cena's pop was insane. Felt 20 years old again. Keep up the awesome work." Thank you, Chad.
Awesome. Thank you, Chad. Hi, Stacy and Joel.
Hi to everyone. Thanks for the watch party. But appreciate you guys coming through. Now, speaking of talking, we got a couple of chatty Cathys backstage. Hook is doing an interview when Orange Cassidy shows up.
Your favorite segment, probably.
Seems a little jealous of Hook because Hook's got a title and isn't beat up. Justin, do you think Hook believes Orange Cassidy talks too much?
Yeah. I don't know. This has got potential. Talk about the most yin and yang that you could probably find in some regards. I don't know. It was short. It was entertaining. Give me more of it.
Yeah, I agree with that, Issa. This is one of those weird pairings that I don't think I never would have come up with on my own. But after that little segment, I'm like, I'm intrigued. You have my attention. What's going to happen here?
I loved this. And it was exactly short, sweet, and simple. And it kind of worked for me. Yeah, I would have never paired these two together. And I don't want Orange Cassidy just be like crying backstage now. Like, I need him to start going in whatever direction he's going to go, because you don't want to beat the momentum that he had. He looked incredible in defeat when he lost that title to Moxley. So we got to I know maybe he's not clear. That's what they're selling us. And that's good that you're still keeping him on TV. But I need to see what's next for him, because I feel like he has a lot of momentum on his side right now.
Yeah, I'm a little worried they're going to have him go after the FTW title, and I feel like that'd be lose-lose for Orange Cassidy. I feel like it'd be good for Hook. I'd like to see him defend it more often, but I don't want to see Orange Cassidy win the FTW title, and I don't want to see him lose a match for the FTW title. So it's interesting, but their dynamic together is fun. I'm very interested to see what happens next. Hook, by the way, I don't know about you guys. I'm noticing that Hook doesn't seem to do a lot, but everyone he's interacting with always seems way more interesting when they're with him. Like Jack Perry suddenly was a superstar in his segments with Hook. And it seems like every time someone has a rivalry with Hook, they stand out and look great. Not because Hook isn't doing anything, but just, I don't know, something about it seems to work.
It's kind of like Hook he's got this great air of mystery to him. And so it's so you're right. When people then get to play off of him, or you put Hook in a position to react to them, it does make it makes it more interesting. Absolutely.
We got a 4-way eliminator for the women's title match where it's Toni Storm, Hikaru Shida, Nyla Rose, and Britt Baker. Early attempts at teamwork fall apart. Everyone struggles to get ahead, but it's Toni Storm with the roll-up of doom on Britt Baker to get the win. Afterwards, Saraya tells Renee that after their match together, Toni will have lost everything, which was the theme of the night, as Issa alluded to. Issa, at the end of this as well, though, Hikaru Shida and Britt Baker were getting a little bit physical. Are we going to see a new shade of gray to Hikaru Shida?
Maybe, possibly. We did the same thing for the last time the title was defended at women's 4-way, like no story. It seems like the end did give me both the winner and the end gave me hope that we're going to build some women's storyline here. I mean, Saturday, I know we don't cover Collision, but we got to see the return of Jade, and she felt like a huge deal immediately. And I would love to see some stories here. I think Toni winning, I'm loving the new character. I'm loving what she's doing. Going against former Outcasts could be a good story to tell. And I'm curious about what they're doing here with Shida and Britt Baker. Am I happy about Britt Baker eating another pin? No. It seems like how do you go from one of the biggest draws in the company to like taking every pin? I don't know. But I'm curious to see where they go with Shida and Britt Baker.
Being one of the biggest stars in the company, taking a pin from everybody. I don't know. Ask Kenny Omega about that. I'm just joking. But Justin, this is an interesting thing to me because Toni Storm feels like I'm not supposed to like her, but it feels like everybody loves Toni Storm in this new character.
Yeah, I'm a bit confused. First of all, I mean, I think Toni Storm.
So is she.
Yeah, I like the character. I feel like she's the right choice. And this is where I'm trying to like keep up with things, and again, not watching Collision, whatever. Like, so she's no longer with Saraya and Ruby, right? I mean, that's clear, and again, so all the more reason why she makes sense to be the one who fights Saraya. But then yet, unless I'm making things up in my mind, I seem to remember tonight she's coming out, and her entrance graphics and everything still is Outcast. It's still the names of Ruby and her and everything on the video board. So like, I mean, I
thought her entrance today was different. I don't know if it's new because I haven't been paying that much attention, but I thought her entrance today was different than the Outcast entrance. I think she had that old Hollywood entrance tonight.
Okay, all right. Well, nonetheless, I think out of the four, she's the one that I think is the right call here. And she's got some momentum here with this new character that I've seen people sharing memes and stuff with. That's always a good sign. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm very interested to see where this goes, and hopefully we get a few more stories built out of the women's division from this. Again, you've got Hikaru Shida and Britt Baker looking like something's going to happen there. You've got, of course, Toni Storm with a character, which is very important with the going against the Outcasts. I'd love to see Nyla Rose and Marina Shafir be used a bit more. I think both of them could be big assets, but we will have to see, as they say. Speaking of friendships, lots of friendships. You see, you're right. There's a lot of good friendliness happening. That's what I like in my combat sports is friendliness. Jericho comes out with Sammy Guevara, and we get a touching video covering the history of Chris and Sammy. They tease each other a bit, but then Sammy says he wants to be the guy, and he can't be the guy until he beats the guy, and that is Chris Jericho. Jericho says someday, but not today. They get pretty tense, but they say after their match, they'll shake hands and win the tag titles. Just this is kind of an interesting approach to this kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm in for it. They elevated my anticipation to see this match. So they certainly have a lot of history. So good on the video package there. Yeah, I thought this promo was well done. I thought that they towed the line of like they even acknowledged they did it. While not doing the same old, as Sammy said, come out here and talk trash. While not doing the same old wrestling promo, they somehow still fell into a same old wrestling trope of we're waiting for one of them to stab the other in the back. So it's I don't know. I enjoyed it. I'm not going to overanalyze it any further than that, but I'm here for the match.
Yeah, Issa, I want to talk about that video package because we always give WWE their flowers for their video packages, and look, WWE is incredible with their video packages, but AEW can bust out some pretty good ones themselves, and this one was actually kind of touching to watch.
It was a great video package. Actually very well put together. These two guys have a lot of history, and I'm glad that they're mentioning that. it was just a weird segment for me because it started a little bit like a father-son mentoring thing. Then we go into the wholesome video package. Then we get kind of weird with the back and forth and the I'm going to hit you hard and I wouldn't have it any other way. Like, I was like, what are we doing here? But it is an interesting approach. Like you said, we're going to have the match and then they're going to try to go for the tag titles. We'll see how it goes. I'm excited to see Sammy in a big match, Arthur Ashe. I'm looking forward to it. I mean, we haven't really seen Sammy do anything for a while, and he's so talented. So I'm excited to see this match, and I'm excited to see where it goes. Great video package, though.
I know he's got a baby on the way. I haven't really paid attention at all to that. Has he had the kid, or is it? I don't know how far along the train. Okay, I was gonna say maybe that's
about 6-7 months.
Oh, yeah, I was about to say maybe that's why he hasn't been on, is he was going through that, but clearly not. Now, we're not going to talk about the main event just yet, but there were a couple of promos we got to get to. Roderick Strong first saying he's going to beat Joe, but Adam Cole is worried about him. Roddy says he's going to win the world title and then break MJF's neck. But then MJF later says that he's not here tonight because of a neck injury of his own, but he's not afraid of either guy that wins tonight. Then Justin, MJF does some Steiner math.
Maxwell does math well. It was very, very entertaining. I mean, it's a callback to the, one of the promos that go down in history from wrestling in general, but from TNA, and he nails it. I mean, obviously this was taped, earlier or last week or so. So who knows if he did it in one take? Who knows how many takes it took? But that's only for the people there in the room to know and to take to their grave. What matters is the final version that made it to air was hilarious. So this was a good use, I thought, of the show here, that if you're not going to have MJF out there live, if you don't have if it doesn't make sense to have him out there tonight because of how the other elements of the story unfolded, this at least gets him on the show by just saying, hey, here's a pre-tape promo from last week in the trainer's room. I thought, nice touch. And again, a pre-tape promo where he's parodying something, and it's arguably the most talked about thing from the show. So well done.
Yeah, Issa, why is it AEW always has to take shots at Impact?
I don't know, but this was smooth. I love this. I absolutely love this segment. I love this promo. And like Justin said, if you're not going to have MJF there, have him do something memorable that people are talking about, that's what it's all about. I really, 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 I really loved everything about this segment. I think everybody did.
Yeah, MJF, he just proves that whatever you need him to do, he's going to knock it out of the park. This is the kind of promo that I feel like a lot of people could have just phoned in and it would have been fine. And he did something that's going to get talked about forever now. It's just fantastic. And it not only is it fun for us as people who watch wrestling for a long time, but it's entertaining, and it calls back history. I don't know. Like, it just does a lot of stuff. It's very, very clever of MJF there. We got a match here, and this was really one of my favorite bits of the night. Brian Cage versus Adam Page. It's the rubber match between the two, and Page has a massive bruise on his chest that I cannot get over the whole time. But once Page gets the advantage, Swerve comes out to distract him. We get a bit of a slugfest with a great combo at the end. That buckshot to F5 to cradle the Deadeye was really cool to see. Page gets the win, but Swerve, or I should say Hangman, then cuts a promo about Swerve. Swerve says, I'm going to fight you in Seattle. Then Cage and Nana attack Hangman, but Page gets saved by the Young Bucks. So a lot of stuff happened here. There was a lot of potatoes here, but I loved it. Issa, you got, I don't know, Page isn't quite big enough to be considered a big, meaty man, but you got a big, meaty man.
Listen, there was a lot of normal-sized men slapping me with big, meaty men tonight. We saw it with Moxley and Big Bill, and we saw it here again. And even at the end of the night, Roddy's not that average. Anyways, the whole point to it is I enjoyed this. The match was great. The Bruce Titty, I don't know if that's what we're calling it, but it freaked me out. I really thought something was wrong with him. I was doing a watch along, and it was my chat who had to inform me it was the makeup, because I just looked, and all of a sudden his chest was purple. This was a great match. I'm starting to become a big fan of Prince Nana and his dancing. You like friendship, I like dancing in my wrestling. Okay, so I thought this was great, and I love the promo that Heyman cut later with Swerve, and I will give them some credit because we kind of talked about how they weren't building shows that they have back to back. And Wrestle Dream and Grand Slam are close, like All In and All Out were. And for them to save Swerve and Hangman for Wrestle Dream, seems like we're thinking about everything that's coming up and being smart about the booking. I appreciate that.
You know, that Issa, I'm glad you said that, because that's exactly what I was going to say. Justin, it seems like AEW has figured out that if you've got two big shows coming up, you got to promote them both. And saving this was a great idea.
No, I agree. Saving it's the right thing to do here. Overall, this entire segment was fun. You know, with Prince Nana's dancing, and then the Bucks come in. I guess, and I liked the promo last week between Swerve. What Swerve had to say, I thought it was Swerve. Maybe Swerve's best yet in AEW. I do find myself sitting, now that we have a date and a time for this match to happen, I do find myself wondering, what do they expect to accomplish here out of Swerve versus Hangman? Because I don't feel like either guy really should be losing right now. Hangman, I feel like the crowd has been clamoring for him, and I know a lot of the CM Punk stuff might have gotten in the way, but like Hangman feels like he should be doing bigger things. I'm not trying to knock Swerve. I just feel like Hangman should just be, just higher up on the card, I guess. And then Swerve, I think Swerve should be winning. Swerve should be rising up, and I guess a win against Hangman will get everybody's attention. I don't know. I'm just really curious of how they're going to book this, because I just feel like both guys need to win here, and in theory, somebody's going to have to lose.
I agree with you. I think both of them desperately need a big win. Page, I've always felt like he's one of their guys that should have been at the top since the beginning, or near the. I mean, they told that really long story, but once he got to the world title scene, he should have stayed in that top echelon. And Swerve, I feel like you need to get up there. I love the pairing of the two. They feel so different, and so they're definitely a clash of personalities and styles. So I really don't know what's going to happen. It's in Seattle, and so Swerve is from Tacoma as well. So of course I gotta root for my Tacoma pal, So I want Swerve to win here. I'm a big Prince Nana fan too. It's interesting, the Prince Nana thing, Issa, how if you had told me Swerve is going to be this dangerous kind of character, and you're going to add a guy who's going to dance silly while he's walking out, I'd say that sounds like a terrible idea, but there's something about it that just works. And I can't explain why, but it's just so great, those two together.
I give it up trying to explain things that work in wrestling. That it's just, there's just some things that only work in wrestling, right? I was trying to explain the other day to somebody why I love Christian Cage so much right now. And as I'm saying out loud what he's doing and his gimmick right now and the dead dad thing, I was like, yeah, you're not going to understand that. Yeah, you just got to give up on trying to make sense of things that work in wrestling and just appreciate it when they do.
Things that work are things that make you feel something. So you feel this funny energy of, here's Prince Nana, who's selling himself off as that he's like African royalty, but meanwhile he's probably like, the hustler that sold Issa that fake poster behind her. But then you have like, and then you have
Big Bob.
Then you have Swerve, who is like, looks like a legit badass, is going to kill you, and so it makes you just as you want to laugh and feel something, to feel good about the dance, and then you're like, oh, this man's going to come out and try to ruin somebody's life.
I'm telling you, the little kid did the dance after I gave him my money for that.
Mm-hmm. By the way, shout out to the AEW graphics department, or whoever came up with it. Did you see the fun fact on Hangman Page's graphic when he came out first match? What did it say? It said, "Does not swerve when he drives."
I missed it.
I love that. That's great. It's last thing on this, Justin. I think it makes so much sense what you were saying about the two different, because it reminds me of comedy when you have the Jim Carrey character next to what they call the straight man, who does nothing, and it makes the silly guys seem more silly. It does feel like them together makes both of them look bigger in what they're doing, and it works great.
Yeah, it's like the Dumb and Dumber formula. If you ever watch some behind the scenes stuff, Jeff Daniels said like everybody in his camp told him, do not take this role. You are going to get just overshadowed and buried by Jim Carrey's comedy. But like Jeff Daniels held his own just by being the smarter of the two dumb guys.
Listen, I gotta make sure everybody in the chat knows that I literally just told Justin and Jack how I got hustled a lot of money for this fake poster. It was literally the conversation right before we hit go live. So big pop for LaBar for like like
peering back the curtain for all y'all. Peering back the curtain of
See,
what our sound check conversations sound like.
Yeah, we're literally talking about how I got hustled by a 10-year-old in San Juan, Puerto Rico.
See, Justin took this shot on air that only us knew about, and then now Issa's going to go onto a media scrum and start yelling at everybody. It's going to be a whole thing.
When you get closer, LaBar.
We got a quick backstage segment with Daniel Garcia saying he's sick of always getting asked about Chris Jericho, and Don Callis comes up to try to, it would seem, recruit Daniel Garcia. And what did Don Callis get for it, Issa? Just a bunch of pelvic thrusts.
I told you I like some dancing in my wrestling. I thought this was okay. It's interesting the people that Don Callis keep recruiting. Like, yeah, he's got Takeshita right now and that's his focus, but he hasn't stopped working and trying to get people to join him. Respect.
Yeah, Justin, I'm someone who has been very high on Daniel Garcia for a long time. I'm not saying he's the finished product, but I have a feeling he's like 25 or 26. I have a feeling when all said and done, he's going to be a very big star in pro wrestling. So I love the idea of him working with Don Callis. But what are your thoughts on Daniel Garcia and potentially, do you think he's going to work with him, feud with him? Where do you think this is going?
They could work together again, considering the Chris Jericho link that they have there. Garcia he's another one of those guys and girls, I guess, that you could that you put in the list of, like, if they maybe like a Ricky Starks, even go to Big Bill, go to, you can say, Hook, that have talent and have something, but there just needs to be a commitment to say, okay, we're now on the Daniel Garcia project for the next 6 weeks. Daniel Garcia is going to have a segment on every single one of Dynamites. And to further the character, maybe sometimes it's in the ring, sometimes it's a pre-tape, sometimes it's a mat, whatever. But they just, again, they have over 150 talents signed. So, and there's not enough TV time. And I'm not suggesting to add another show, but there's still not enough time to get everybody over consistently. So he's just throw him in the list. He's in a list there of, like, some really good projects that just need commitment to them. So that way the audience gets familiar and gets banking on them. And, so we'll see. We'll see. Ask me again next Wednesday. But I have a feeling, given that very busy Arthur Ashe show, I don't think we're going to be seeing Daniel Garcia anywhere.
How good of a wrestling company would you have if you could just take all the people from WWE and AEW who they don't have time to put on TV for? I feel like there's so many good talents that there's just not enough time for. We did get a quick video package I want to touch on because I do think it's a pretty big deal. And Issa, you alluded to it earlier. Jade Cargill has returned, and she is going to be facing Chris Statlander for the TBS title on Rampage. Chris Statlander or Jade Cargill coming back is a huge deal. And I'm getting a little frustrated because everyone's so upset that this match is on Rampage, but at the same time, everyone says Rampage needs important matches to get people to tune in. So they're doing this and people are upset. I feel like people just will never be happy about Rampage no matter what happens.
Yeah, possibly, but I guess I see your point. At the same time, I do wish they would have put this Arthur Ashe or a Dynamite or in a bigger stage, because it was all everybody was talking about. Whether you watch Collision or not, you knew Jade came back. And everything just felt automatically bigger. We talk about it every week that we have the opportunity to talk about Jade. She has the it factor, right? She oozes it. And it's just somebody you should be taking advantage of and putting them in your bigger shows, and then maybe moving her to your smaller show. But you already had her come back at what's considered a small show. So maybe the return match at a bigger show and then bring her back to Collision or Rampage, just get people to kind of follow her, right? But the return match being a Rampage, it's the spoilers. If at least Collision is live here or there, but Rampage is just gonna get spoiled and nobody's gonna watch it.
And that's what it is. Jack, I understand your question. I understand your point, and there is something to that maybe sums up wrestling fans. I mean, I always say with some of the worst wrestling fans, you can hand them a $100 bill and they'll bitch that they wanted 520s.
Right.
But I think it does come down to it's the live factor, right? It's when it's in SmackDown had this for years. SmackDown, which is now arguably the number one wrestling show of anything, but SmackDown had the stigma for years of when it was taped, nothing that it was missable. Like, I mean, it didn't. I mean, obviously, its numbers were better than what Rampage or Collision does, but as comparison to Raw, it was missable. Raw had that you must see because anything could happen. It's live, and some things did. But SmackDown was like, all right, they can always reshoot the match, or they can reshoot the promo, or whatever. Or even the few times a world title changed hands, it's like, again, it was spoiled on Tuesday, so they took that thing away from it. So I think that's what it comes down to. Is like, that's why I almost feel like just get rid of Rampage. I know it's there to be time for, and I keep quoting how there's over 150 talents, but if nobody's really watching it, and if it's, it just doesn't have that must-see factor. Collision, while I don't watch Collision every week because it's a Saturday night, but it at least is live, and if they start getting stuff organized now that are in the post-punk era, and they figure out, okay, what we're doing here, and they have some big things happen, like a title match, or God, if Edge shows up at all of a sudden, I'm like, okay, maybe I need to start carving out some time on Saturdays to see Collision. If you start making me have to watch it, but it is a live versus taped thing.
I do have a feeling it's not going to end clean, and they're going to have a rematch down the road. I can't imagine it's just going to end, but I'm kind of worried about it because Jade Cargill feels like she should be beyond the TBS title at this point. She's like one of the biggest stars in the AEW. I feel like Jade Cargill should be like a Brock Lesnar at this point, where she's really only around right before the big shows, and then she's on the big show in a big match, and then she goes back and waits until the next big show because she's such a star.
Jade's streak was fun, and she did look like $1 million when she's out there. Her taking that time off after her streak ended, her taking that time off didn't help things. I felt like while the streak was great, she's still relatively new to the audience, right? She's still new to just in general, just to pop culture, media, whatever. She's still new, right? So I feel like when that streak ended, and then she just disappeared and took some time off. That was like the out of sight, out of mind. If you got 20 years in the game like Brock Lesnar across WWE and UFC, you can lose, go away, and everybody's still going to be talking and waiting 6 months later for when's Brock Lesnar come back. They're going to know exactly who you are when as soon as they hear that music hit again. Same thing with Undertaker and all the other ones that can take. But obviously, Jade's not at that level. I don't think it was a good idea for her to take the time off. Don't know why she took the time off. Maybe it was personal, whatever. And I get it, tend to your needs. But just from the standpoint, strictly from a booking standpoint, I don't think that did any favors to the momentum and credibility they were building up with her on her run.
Hopefully she doesn't eat a loss on Rampage, but we got Darby Allin and Nick Wayne going against Daddy Magic and Cool Hand Luke. Mid-match, Christian comes out and joins the commentary team. Ends pretty much how you'd expect, with a couple of high diving moves off the top rope, and Darby Allin and Nick Wayne win. Afterwards, Christian Cage talks about Nick Wayne's mom and then pitches Darby and Sting versus Christian and Saurus. Issa, Christian, just talk to me about Christian. He's knocked it out of the park.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. I mean, he opened his promos with, I was scrolling through your mom's Instagram, and I'm like, hey, can relate. We all been there. Christian is fun. Everything that he's doing right now is fun. I shouldn't be saying that, but I just like, as soon as he came out, like just the vibe of the match changed automatically, because you're going to be paying attention to whatever he's saying on commentary, and he's going to cut a promo, he's going to kill it. Great match. It's just at one point, do we just... are we supposed to believe that Darby's human anymore? Because I don't know if you guys saw the spot that he took on Saturday on the turnbuckle from Roddy. And then we saw that crazy match he had with Luchasaurus. And then you have Orange Cassidy walking around all taped up saying he can't wrestle. And Darby's taking these crazy spots and he's just wrestling every week like it's nothing. Like, it's just mind-blowing to me. But yeah, I just love everything that Christian is doing. It's a whole different kind of heel, and it's entertaining. I'm here for it.
Yeah, Justin, Christian has just struck a nerve, I think. Obviously, hitting some emotional points, but even the basic stuff, I'm surprised we haven't heard it before. I was looking through your mom's Instagram. Like, it's so easy. How have we not heard people make these comments before?
I don't know, but I'm scrolling through her Instagram right now, and I can actually, it's Shayna247 for anybody who's curious. And I mean, she's probably gonna have some more followers by tomorrow morning. I'm gonna take a gander at that one.
Let's in the chat, let's What? How many does she have right now?
She has. Well, she's gonna have 72,000 by tomorrow. But Tony Khan's gonna refute that. Tony Khan's gonna say that she actually has more followers that it got taken away from. She has 3,440 followers right now.
3,440 followers. So today's post it in the comment section thing for you is to guess how many followers she will have by the end of the week. Let's see.
I kind of want to hit the follow button, but I kind of feel like that'd be weird. like the first line in her bio, it does say Mama Wayne. I don't know.
Does Christian follow her?
Ooh, good question.
Question.
I mean, he has to. Like Chris Jericho does. Billy Gunn does.
Uh-oh. We're gonna
the Ass Man and the Sex God. Look out, Mama Wayne.
we're gonna. How come we can drive traffic to her Instagram, but we can't get people to follow us when we shout it out? Come on, guys. Before you guys check out her Instagram, go follow me.
Jack, I'm pretty sure your hair never looked quite like this particular photo I'm looking at right now. Sorry.
I got a feeling it has not. Let's talk about the end of the show, though. Screaming, Adam! Comes Roderick Strong, and he faces Samoa Joe in the #1 contenders match. Kingdom's on the outside. Eventually, they get involved, but Joe still gets the win.
I just hit refresh, and she has 5 more followers. Just in that, she's got 5 more. Just keep it coming.
You see that? We do numbers, okay? Advertisers. Did you see that? Okay. Blue Chew. How about MeUndies? Who are the other ones that are always on podcasts? Yeah, you know who you are. Sign up. We drive numbers. In any case, Roderick Strong loses, but Samoa Joe says he's going to take everything from Adam Cole. Then Adam Cole comes out, and Roderick Strong suddenly has neck pain again. And then before the end of the show, it almost startled me out of nowhere. Samoa Joe comes out and chokes the life out of Adam Cole. Issa, tell me about this ending.
Oh my God, it was so dramatic. Adam!
Adam!
It was, they stalled a little. I don't know if we were like, if the match ended before, because it did feel like we were stalling a lot. But Adam Cole and Roderick Strong managed to make it entertaining throughout. You know, at one point, Adam Cole's just standing there. He's screaming, Adam, and you can hear Adam Cole say in the background, right here, bro. like, why are you yelling? The match was super good. Shout out to both of them because I really enjoyed the match. I like the ending. But yeah, I mean, I pop a little bit more for Samoa Joe coming out and choking out Adam Cole because he really is after MJF, everything. But I liked it. There's a lot of little stories that we're telling here. You know, you're telling the story Roddy and Samoa Joe, Adam Cole and Roddy, Samoa Joe and MJF. There was a lot of pieces that moved in this main event, and they let it breathe. It had time for everything to happen without feeling rushed. It was great. 10 out of 10 ending to the show, honestly.
Yeah, Justin, I would say the only thing I didn't like about it is what Issa may have alluded to there was that it did feel like the match maybe ended a minute or two early because it felt like they had to drag that out a little bit longer than they should have.
But you know what? I've been critical in past weeks and months when things run over and they're rushing things and they're not getting all the emotion out. So I'm not going to criticize this. Maybe it ended a minute earlier than it should have, but I think better a minute earlier to give time to let this stuff all happen. Otherwise, it seems really weird. I think this probably came off on TV better than it did live. TV, at least you could like sit there and you could probably hear more of him screaming at him, and you have commentary and you can hear the chatter to the medical people and whatever. By judging the look and sound of the crowd, I don't know if they fully understood what Roddy was doing. I don't know if they thought like, is Roddy being silly? Did he get hurt? Did I miss something? Is commentary and telling something? So I don't know. I'm curious. I'd love to know if somebody was there live. Please hit me up on social and let me know. But overall, I thought this was a good ending. Was a really good match. And yeah, I mean, Samoa Joe, I don't think he's going to be beating MJF, but he certainly came off as a big threat.
That is the one thing that I will say. The match was good and it made me watch. I didn't feel invested because I thought as soon as they teased MJF and Samoa Joe, we knew who was winning the tournament. So I kind of wanted to get to the ending and the shenanigans after. They did deliver a great match. But Roddy is doing some great acting here, because when Adam came out, he just like dropped to the floor. Like it was just so well done. So shout out to everybody involved.
I'm really glad that Roderick Strong is, like, we've always known he's a good wrestler once the bell rings, but I'm glad he's finally getting the chance to show some character stuff and show that he can flex those muscles too, because he's doing such a good job with this that, like I said, every time, Adam, I love it. Every time.
Interesting he's been in a long time as a character. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And am I crazy? And I'll let both of you go. I just want to say you first. I kind of want Samoa Joe to win next week. I kind of want him to be champion.
No. He can sit there and hold on to his ROH stuff, but no. MJF is your AEW world champion.
Samoa Joe never wins the big one, Jack. Come on.
I wanted to. I'm kind of rooting. Like when trust me, I'm an MJF fan. I was like, okay, this is how it's going to go. But when he came out and choked out Adam Cole, I was like, I want him to be the new world champion. Samoa Joe. I want him to win the world title, and then you know who I want to take it from him? Billy Gunn. Billy Gunn, your next AEW champion. I'm still pushing for it.
Please, Jack, never book a wrestling show ever.
And in the main event of WrestleMania, Akira Tozawa versus Billy Gunn. What kind of numbers? We're going to sell 15 tickets.
Yeah, but how many are you going to say that were there? That is what matters.
That's what I'm saying. There's really only 12.
Only 12 with the turnstiles.
Only 12 with the turnstiles.
if your show afforded turnstiles, but yet only got 12 people, I think that we have a clash in a strategic approach.
And one of them was Akira, and the other one was Billy Gunn. So, but yeah, let me know in the chat if you guys think if you want Samoa Joe to win, not if you think he's going to win, but if you want him to win. Before we go, though, that's it. Let me know in the chat what you guys thought of the show. Justin, where can the world find you online, and what were your overall thoughts of this week's episode?
Overall, I think it was an okay show. It was probably what it needed to be it's your go-home show to a big premium episode of Dynamite next week. Like I said, I thought that things they did not cram and rush as much, which I think that's a good thing. It's only going to help things, right? Overall, is good. It certainly wasn't the greatest show, but I've certainly seen them do worse. So good, what it was. Find me on the socials at Justin LaBar. Here on Monday nights, here on Wednesday nights, Friday mornings on Sirius XM Radio with Busted Open Spar with LaBar, and we'll see what it is after this gets archived and people can listen on demand. But I can just tell you right now, in the live, the updated numbers, she has gained 15 Instagram followers since my PSA a few minutes ago. So the follows are being clicked.
So she owes us one. Again, we drive numbers. I don't know who the other, Jimmy Seafood or whoever advertises on these podcasts. Conrad's Mortgages.
I'm gonna be in Baltimore Saturday. Maybe I'll try to convince Jimmy Seafood then to get on it.
Yeah, tell him to advertise with Wrestling Inc. Issa, what were your overall thoughts of the show, and where can the world find you online? Oh, I think we may have lost Issa. Well,
she froze over the end.
I think she was in the middle of saying, I agree with Jack. Samoa Joe should be the next world champion. And look, as long as she doesn't say I'm wrong, I must be right. So see, there she goes. She agrees. Well, thank you to everyone in the chat. As always, remember, like, comment, share, subscribe. Thank you to everyone in the chat, the lurkers as well. Burner account, KOD, NYC Demon Diva. Thank you so much for joining us. Yeah, saying, sorry, guys, my internet gave up after your Jack's booking ideas. You can follow me at Real Jack Farmer across all social media. I'm also going to be doing commentary for Prestige Wrestling on September 24th. If you're in LA, come see us at the Globe Theater. If not, you can check it out on IWTV. It's going to be a fun one. And as always, follow at Wrestling Inc. for all the latest news. That does it for us. And until then, I don't know, you send